By the way, I want to introduce first myself to each one of you. I am Professor Susan Maminta from AMA East Rizal Branch. Today we will discuss the week 9 under HRN 6350, and that is selection. Under this topic, we have two major activities. One is determining the fairness of the test. And the next major activity is making the hiring decision. Okay. But before going to the discussion, I want to inform each one of you that in today's class, you will learn the following. Okay. First, you will learn how to determine the fairness of a test in the hiring process. Second, you can identify the difference between bias and fairness. Another, you can also learn the methods of determining the fairness of a test. Also, you will learn how to comprehend the decision process of hiring applicants and identify the best forms of hiring. Now, we can determine the fairness of a test if it is reliable. Okay, what do we mean by reliable? Okay, the test should be nearest to reality. Okay, for example, class, you are an engineer and then you are applying for an engineer work. And then this HRM give you an exam in accountancy. So it's not reliable. It should not be, because you are an accountant, you are applying for accountant position. So the test must not be for, you are applying for an engineering position and the exam is accountancy, so it's not good. It's not reliable. Okay. Next, it should be valid. Okay. There are exams, there are tests for applicants that are not in written. Okay, there are times it is a practical examination. Like for example, you are applying for a company driver position. Of course, there will be a on the job exams. Okay, so you will have to test if you are really good in driving. So if the company will ask you to drive, let's say from Manila going to Pagudpot, then that's not valid. Okay, so the exam, in order to be determined fair, we should put in mind that it must be reliable and valid. How can we ensure that the test is fair and that the test is unbiased? So for us, okay, parang it's just the same meaning, right? Fair and unbiased. But under the theory of this HRM 6350, these two terms are similar and sometimes do overlap, but they have different meanings. and they both refers to technical aspects. Let's talk about bias. Test considered bias if it is intended for group differences. What do I mean for this? Okay, when we say group differences, we're talking about differences or discrimination about the sex, about the race, about the age. Okay, let's talk about the sex discrimination. Okay, during our time, okay, I think that was 35 years ago, okay, we experienced this sex discrimination. And that time, male applicants are giving more favorable acceptance in a company than the female applicants. Why? Because the female applicants the female applicant might go for maternity leave, di ba? So, while the men applicants, wala silang maternity, of course. So, with that, because the company wanted not to have operation interruption, because some of the female applicants, once they were hired, they might get pregnant. So they might get applied for maternity leaves. Okay, that was before. Nowadays, okay, it's not really, that's not no longer happening nowadays. So because we now have, especially at the time of Gloria Arroyo that we have, and Aquino, okay, we have the first, the first Filipina president. First, our president was a woman. Okay. So, at that time, started na mawala na yung sex discrimination in our country. What about the race? Okay. This book that we are discussing is based from US book. Okay. That is the reason why we have this race discrimination. Okay. Race discrimination is really happening in US. We have the whites against the American African. So, nangyayari yan dyan, okay, sa America. And I think it's less in Canada. Okay. And then what about the age? Age discrimination. Okay. Age discriminations, company now, okay, the companies are now more favorable for young executives than the aging executives. Okay. But there are also exceptions of that. But what I mean is that really happening. Okay. So the test or bias, if there is a presence of group differences. Then test is considered fair. Okay, it is fair if there is equal chance of being hired. As I have said, dapat walang discrimination whether you are male or female, white Americans or African American, okay? Whether you are old, more than 50 years old or 40 years old, as against to the 30 years olds. Okay. And then, test is considered fair if it can predict performance equally well. Okay. Meaning, class, the test that you are giving, if you are in the HR department, you know very well that the performance of the outcome of this tests are equally well to all applicants. Okay. There are basic ways to determine the adverse impact. Okay, adverse impact on the test. Okay, let's talk about practical significance. It is said that there is a practical significance if the selection rate for any group is less than 80% of the highest score. Meaning, class, the highest scorer on that exam in all the exams that are given by the HR department is less than 80, the highest scorer. So, in that case, it's not good. There is a practical significance. So, in order for you that you can qualify that the exam is good, at least the top scorer should be 80 and above. Another one is statistical significance. When we say statistical significance, okay, in the records of our examiners, almost all the applicants failed the exam. Okay? And that is really a significant result. There are 3 criteria for a minimum qualification of a test. Okay, so tatlo lang. There are 3. So, number 1, it must be needed to perform the job. Okay, when you are giving the exam, okay, make sure that is really needed for the job. For example, you are applying for a filing clerk position. Okay, so the test must be arranging of files in a chronological order. Okay, so like for example, you are applying for a filing clerk in a bank. Okay, so you will arrange the name of the depositors. Okay, like for example, you'll be given that Edward Allison, Edward Abimar, Edward, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the kind of test that is intended for a filing clerk position. Okay, and normally, marami, the applicants will take that in a short period of time with almost 50 items. Okay, to determine if it's really good or okay to be a filing clerk. Next, okay, another criteria is that it must be formally identified and communicated prior to the start of the selection process. Okay, so if you are the applicants in a company, okay, the HR or in charge with giving you the exam will inform you that, okay, you will take this series of examination. First, you will start with the abstract reasoning, next with analogy, next with the mathematical computation, and so on. Okay, so it's for you, it's for the applicants to go with the examination or not. Okay, so it should be properly communicated. And then after the exam, you will undergo, okay, you will also inform the applicants that you will also undergo a practical examination. And next, it must be consistently applied. Okay? Meaning, there must be no discrimination to all applicants. If the applicants for a position of a clerical position, then this set of exam must be given to all applicants. If the exam is good for supervisory, then there must be also a exam applicable to supervisory position. Under HRM 6350, under this topic, we have this terminology, a single group validity of a test. What is this? A single group validity means the test will significantly predict performance for one group and not others. So, it is really intentional that the test is intended for one group only. So, the other group that is not, that the HR didn't like to be hired, okay, will be discriminated, okay? And this single group validity should be disregard the test. There is also another term that is differential validity. And what is this differential validity? It is the test that is valid for both groups, but is more valid for one than for the other. Again, this is more likely than the single group validity because it favors other groups. But then there is still favoritism on the other group. So, what will you do with this differential validity? If that happens, then organization can stop using the test. Okay. Now, we're done with the test. We are now in the second activity, and that is hiring decision. In hiring decision, after the valid and fair selection test that have been administered to a group of applicants, then we can proceed to the final decision that must be made as to which applicants to hire. Okay? Who among the applicants has the potential to be the employee of the company? There are 4 forms of linear approach in hiring. When we say class linear approach, it means that this is a straight line. Okay? There is a straight approach, okay, in hiring decision. Okay. One is an adjusted top-down selection. Under this unadjusted top-down selection, it means that applicants that are ranked ordered on the basis of their test scores. So you will start with the highest scorer, okay? And this kind of approach has advantage on hiring the top scorer, okay? Because you are going to put, okay, you get the results of the examiners from top to the lowest. So you get the top scorer, okay? That is the advantage. You can easily get who are the top scorer. But there is also disadvantage on that. And that is it reduces the organization's flexibility. Okay? Why? Because the organization will just look at the top scorer. Okay? And is that only the basis for you to hire the employee? Do you think that is really good because of the top score only? And that is you, as the organization, you reduce the flexibility of the organization's hiring decision. Okay. Another forms of linear approach, number 2, is the rule of 3. Okay. Under this rule of 3, by the word itself, okay, we will only get the top 3 scorers. Okay, so if we have 50 applicants, that means only 3 will be qualified. Okay, the top 3 scorers. For example, there is a tie. Okay, number 3, there are 3 applicants that are tied for 3rd position. So you will give them again the top 3. The 3 applicants occupying the number 3 positions will be given again an exam for them to be deducted the 2, okay, and we get only the only one, and that will occupy the number 3 position. And after finalize the top 3 scorers, okay, you will forward these 3 top scorers to the hiring division. For example, class, okay, the sales department are looking for 3 salesman assistant. Okay. So the sales department needs 3 salesman assistants. Okay, so these 3 top scorers applying for salesman assistants positions will be interviewed by the head of the sales department. That is what do you mean by forwarded to the hiring division. Another one, the number 3 forms of linear approach, is the passing scores. In these passing scores, the HR department is reducing the adverse impact and increasing flexibility. Why? Because even the lowest scorer has the chance to be one of the to be selected as an employee. And in this way, the HR department or the one in charge in giving the exam make a multiple cut-off. For example, okay, in this first batch of applicants, we will have a 70% cut-off, meaning all the examiners who got 70, they will pass the exam, okay? And then the next cut-off will be 60. Okay, for example, under the 70 cut-off, okay, only 5 pass the exam. So it's not yet good. Okay, so the HR will make again another cut-off. And this time it will be 60. Okay, under 60 cut-off, there are 4 applicants pass the exam. and still not yet good because you only have 9. Okay, so another, you have to make another another cutoff because you'll be needing at least 20 applicants for the position. Okay, next, the number 4 is bonding. When we say bonding, this kind of linear approach means you hire the top scorers while you still allowing some flexibility for affirmative action. And you take consideration on the degree of error associated with any test. And then you also applied a statistic called standard of error. Okay. This is the last topic, okay? That is banding, okay? This one, okay, there is flexibility, okay? Because you consider that in any exam, there is really a standard of error. What is the standard of error acceptable in statistics? And diba, it is 5%, okay? So when you do your research in thesis, when you do your interpretation of the collected data, okay, you perform that there is a 5% margin of error. So in this number 4 approach, we consider that this margin of error in the standard, that is 5%, should be applied. But yet, you are also give importance to the top test scorer. Okay? But you also consider those who pass, but they are not on the top scorers, but they have the experience, they have the, based on the interview, they have their more experience that they have. So at least in that, you will consider that maybe she's not as good in written exam, but she's good in practical. Okay, so that's it. Okay.